Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is a friend, longtime radio guy, first-timer on the show, and the creator and owner of Wolverine Radio, Mike Mynarski. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I've never done this before.
Never done TV?
Never.
We make it virtually painless here. Well, today we're going to talk about Wolverine Radio, which is a radio station that basically sort of super serves the greater Griswold, Jewett City area. Is that correct?
Jewett City, Griswold, Plainfield. We do cover news of Plainfield. And we kind of even kind of squeak into Norwich a little bit just because Lisbon sometimes is considered a part of Norwich and Taffville.
It's where the action is, you know.
Yeah, there's lots going on in Taffville.
Yeah.
You know, but there are things that are going on that we like to report to our listeners.
So let's go way back in time, okay? Back to a point before either of us were actually in radio. And Mike knows where I'm going with this story. Mike Mynarski claims that he is the first person to give me my break in radio. As you may know, I've mentioned before on the show that I also do a morning radio show, as well as this TV show. And in fact, he's correct. He really did actually get me my first, radio gig. It wasn't really talking on the air. It was just sort of playing a syndicated show, pushing buttons. I think we might be all the way going back to the days of vinyl, too.
Yeah, but then again, all I did is I made a connection for you. You would have gotten in there one way or another anyway. So.
And then our careers diverged to the point where you did a lot of other ventures that didn't necessarily involve radio, but we did made up later on when you started doing some air shifts and stuff. But you, my friend, took it into a direction where, and I want you to tell me what the phoenix was of this, where you decided one day, you know what, I'm going to start my own radio station.
It started out as a hobby. It was just a complete legit hobby, and I was at a crossroads as for what I wanted to do for a career.
Now, you had done radio, as I mentioned.
Yeah, but I'd never done it as an owner.
Okay.
But I'd done just about every job in radio, whether it was sales or news or traffic or just a regular air shift or whatever.
That's a good way to learn to decide whether you actually wanted to be in the business or not. Yeah. Dabble in a lot of areas.
Well, I always loved it, and it's one of those things that you can kind of take the boy, out of radio, but you can't take radio out of the boy.
We should mention that even before that, you were also, the mobile DJ too. You had that for a while too, and so a lot of people use that as sort of a segue into the on-air stuff too.
Yeah, I did that for about 25 years, and that just started not being much fun anymore. But now it's fun again, and I love doing it, and I love being on the air, but not as much as actually the behind the scenes stuff,
sort of creating,
the creative end. I like that a whole lot more. It's not. I've had my day, where I've been on the air and stuff like that, and it was fun. But now I want to do something else, and I want other people to take the reins. And like, for example, I have a gentleman now that sits in with me in the mornings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. His name is Terry Sumner. Terry is a retired state police officer here in Connecticut. And he also does mobile DJ stuff. Well, I've been bugging him for a year to come on board, and finally he did. And now I'm kind of giving him the reins a little bit. He doesn't realize what I'm doing yet, just so, and make sure he has the morning show himself. I want to separate from that.
That's the thing you mentioned. It's stopped being a little bit fun doing on-air stuff. I think, and I do a morning show. I think that's really where you have to be. That's where there's the most visibility for you. I say that being on radio, the most notoriety. People are really tuned in because they're on their way to work when you're on the air. So you're entertaining, informing, and letting them know if there are any accidents or school delays and things like that.
Yeah, and we try to have fun in the process. Terry and I have a lot of banter that goes on back and forth.
That's important. You need that too.
Yeah. But what I want to do as a whole with Terry, or really anybody else that comes on, is you've heard of Vince McMahon,
the wrestling CEO, president, CEO, or chairman. I'm sorry, of WWE.
He's a heck of a promoter. Him before him, his father and stuff, and his job is he created talent, and he created what he calls superstars or whatever. What I want to do is I want to take people and put them in that role, and make them into, well, maybe little media heroes, within our little
local I don't want to say celebrities, but local, noticed locally in the area that you super serve.
Yeah, and and Terry has that look, so if you put his picture on something, he's going to look good. People are going to know him, from the town, just from what he's done over the last 30 years.
Wolverine Radio, what is the format? How would you describe it? Full service?
Full service?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we run news every top of the hour. We have a network news that we run at the top of the hour, followed by local and weather, and we also run sports. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we're the first station in Griswold to actually be, I guess you could say, like a flagship for Griswold Wolverine sports. It's never happened, So now you can hear all of the football games. You can hear we have baseball and softball coming up. We just finished with basketball. The football season was phenomenal. We did 10 games. It was great. It was people so much positive feedback.
Good.
People listening to the games. It was fun.
And that's the key, local. Obviously, with your format and the way you super serve a small area of the state, some surrounding communities, you have to super serve, and it's all about local. Local is key.
Exactly.
Really, with all of terrestrial radio, because even I work for a company that's more regional than local, but local is important. We have to be able to provide our niche, and your niche is to provide things that satellite radio and Spotify and those kind of things can't do.
Right.
They can't tell you if there's an accident on I-395 or if there's a delay at Griswold High.
Satellite can't. But there are a lot of online
Even
resources.
Pandora,
True, true. But there are a lot of online resources. Even like for the company you work for, we do different things.
Right.
Completely different things.
Right, very different.
Which makes it valuable for any listener.
So let's continue with that, with your vision and your dream to when you first started thinking about it and you really started getting it off the ground, because we talked, because I was in the business, and one of the things that I suggested you do was talk to a friend of the show who's been on more than once, Chris DiPaolo, who has his own radio stations in Westerly, and he super serves that community there too. That's the guy, because that's what your station is going to similarly be, which it is. That's the guy to talk to. But that's just one area for you to kind of glean some information from, knowledge from, before you take it to the next step, which is create your own radio station.
I did talk to Chris, and we have ongoing conversations even to this day, except now he's in Florida, in the sunshine.
He's a big timer now.
Yeah, he is. And he's given me a lot of good information, and it's funny because he said to me, he goes, you're doing the exact same thing I did. And I went, well, that's pretty cool. I said, it worked? He said, yeah.
He's still there doing it, right?
Yeah. So it's funny because I had my own model, and when I told him what my model was, it was pretty much the same thing that he's doing or did.
Okay, so you're thinking about it, you want to do it, start talking to people. How does this start to evolve into the point where you're like, you know what, I think this is going to happen? When did you discover that there was a lot of red tape and there's a lot of things that could easily fall through the cracks? Where do I set it up at? What kind of equipment do I use? What about licenses? All that stuff.
Well, the first step was getting on the air, and how was I going to do that? And
you knew where you were going to have it. You were to super serve that area.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do, and I had a model. I wanted to base everything along, around, local news and information. But how was I going to deliver that content? I wasn't sure. So I did some a lot of research. I talked to Chris. I talked to you. I talked to Rob Walker. Mm-hmm. He gave me a lot of information as far as, what playout system to use and how to manipulate the internet a little bit to to deliver certain content. Then he let me know of a transmitter called the Hamilton Rangemaster, which is what they call a Part 15 certified. It's FCC certified. It's low power AM, and you can actually run more than one, but each one is
because
100 milliwatts.
Right,
because of the FCC regulations.
Right.
There's no licensing for this.
Okay.
But the other end of that is that the FCC is not offering any filing windows right now for either AM, FM, LPFM, or even TV stations.
Right, so you have to stay in that range of really under the radar, for a lack of a better expression.
Right. So what I did is I looked more towards the the internet way of things.
You knew that was what it was going to be anyway. You could even with a small AM super serve your local community, but really social media and internet is really how you were going to reach people.
Well, yeah, I mean, I put the kibosh, so to speak, or put it on ice a little bit as far as the terrestrial. I mean, we're still on 1690, within the borough of Jewett City. But as far as the internet is concerned, we're 24 hours a day on there. And the reason why I went that way is I did a lot of research as far as what's happening with internet radio and what kind of boom it's going through and what different countries are doing, as opposed to internet versus FM. So like one article I read was the country of Norway has actually decommissioned the FM band. It's, as of 2017, it's gone.
So they're more into the internet, certainly, than they are to...
Yeah. Well, the reason being was because 92% of all citizens in Norway have access or can receive an FM broadcast, where 99% have internet or some form of mobile broadband.
Their internet's probably better than the United States internet,
But England's doing the same thing.
Okay, so slowly but surely those are going away too.
Yeah.
And it's another example of how radio is evolved. Now, some people would say maybe not so much for the better in the sense that a lot of jobs get lost because automation comes in. Back in the day, you had to have a guy on the overnight. You don't need to have anybody on the overnight anymore. Technically, you can voice track shifts now to the point where if you're good enough, the listener wouldn't even know that you really weren't
Right.
there. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the reality of radio today, regardless if you're a big company. Big companies like to do that a lot. Or a small
money
station.
saver.
Yeah, it's a money saver, but again, you can correct mistakes, because you're not necessarily live, but you can still be local with it too.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, our staff that we have somebody on live 24 hours a day. It's myself and Terry in the morning. From middays, we have a guy by the name of Ron Carson, who's been in local radio around here for a long time.
We love Ron Carson.
Ron Carson, he's a character, and I get a kick out
Well,
of
I
him.
think we're going to have him on sometime. We've
Think
been
so?
talking
He'd
about
be
it. Yeah.
he'd be a great guest, I'll tell you.
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on from 10 to 2. Great midday guy, as far as that respect. And
What is his show like?
he's all about the music.
Yeah.
He's all about the
He's
music.
got an encyclopedic knowledge of oldies.
He does, and he likes to. There's always one word he likes to say somewhere during the shift.
Magic?
No, meow.
Meow.
Yeah, he likes to purr like a kitten sometimes. Like, for example, if he had Long Cool Woman in a black dress by the Hollies.
Okay, all right.
His outro is pretty much the same thing.
Making memories, that was one of his catchphrases.
He
But
does say that too.
This is an example of local personalities that have their
That's
own
exactly
thing,
what it
their
is.
niche, and that works perfectly for what you're doing.
But I got to tell you, here's something that goes against the grain of what you just said, but we turned it around.
Usually to your advantage.
Yeah, our afternoon host, he's on from 2 to 7. His name is Leighton Morris. He's actually in England.
Ah, okay.
And
Does he have the accent?
He does.
Okay.
He does. He lives 20 miles or kilometers from Sherwood Forest.
Wow.
You know, like the whole Robin Hood
The
thing?
real Sherwood Forest.
And he came to Griswold and spent time here and learned the area.
Oh, no kidding.
He did.
That must have been culture shock for him a little bit.
Well,
huh?
first what he did is he went all over Google Street View.
Okay.
And Google Maps and like almost memorized the entire area.
Wow.
Then he came here. We went downtown, met with the first selectman and administration. And
That is a dedicated guy to his craft, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you ever look him up, he was a big deal. He was a really big deal in England.
How did you get him to want to be on your small station?
Well,
I mean, is it your charm and good looks and personality, or?
no, because charm and good looks go nowhere in radio.
Yeah. And
No.
or did you hand him a big bag of money? Well, I don't think you're at that point yet, right?
No,
Yeah,
no. I like to hand me a big bag of money, but I haven't found
First,
that yet either. What's the best way to put that? Are you familiar with a website called All Access?
Yes.
Okay.
The radio website.
He had lost his job in England on
So they lose their jobs over there too, just like we do.
103.2, which is in England they have even numbers and over here
Right.
they have odd numbers. He lost his job and he was looking and he wanted to be a radio guy in America. That's all he wanted to do. So I'm looking through and I found him. We just started talking back and forth, and then he started voice tracking overnights for another streamer.
A lot of radio personalities do that now with the technology. You can voice track on your station, my station, that station. You can be all over the country, and by voice tracking, a lot of people. I have a studio set up in my house. I mean, I have my radio stations, but if I want to do a shift, whether either live or voice track, I can do it from home too if I want. You know?
As can I. I can actually do it from my smartphone.
Yeah. If you were really in a jam.
Right. So he's been with me for over a year now, and he's actually become our program director, and he does it from England.
Excellent.
We have a guy.
That's awesome.
We have a guy from 7 to midnight named Kyle King. He's in Houston, and we have a.
So here I am talking about the little local Wolverine Radio, but really they're all over the country and all over the world. They're in England. They're in Houston.
Yeah, we got a 15-year-old kid from Iowa, but it still goes back to. I tell each and every one of them, if you want to be involved, we'd love to have you involved and working on the station and everything. However, learn the area,
right? Because
it is a local station. I actually got one more person involved recently.
All right. Well, let's take a break because we got to take a break and we'll come back because we got a lot more to get to. Give out a website, Wolverine Radio website or Facebook page, whatever you want to do for people to go and learn more.
Well, you can go to Facebook. We have a group and a page.
Okay.
There are two different ones.
Wolverine Radio. We'll put a graphic up on the screen.
Yeah, Wolverine Radio. Our website is wolverine-radio.com, where you can actually click listen live there, or you can get the app for iPhone or Android devices.
Free.
They're both free. And they're ad-free as well, so there are no ads on the app.
Excellent. Mike Minarski, owner, creator, Wolverine Radio. We'll take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest, Mike Minarski, creator, owner of Wolverine Radio, can be heard worldwide and also in Griswold and Jewett City and Plainfield. I want to pick up where we left off because I don't want to leave out any of your staff. So you were saying.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do with the radio station is, and this is how I grew up in radio. I love personalities. You know, I mean, whether it was Bob Steele or pick a name, you know, even Rick Dees, you know, back in the day.
You don't want
Dick
a liner
Clark.
card reader. That's what you don't want. You've heard too much of
Paul
that
Harvey.
radio. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I wanted somebody to develop
Broadway Bill Lee.
Yeah, you remember WKRP in Cincinnati?
Of course, love that show.
Every jock had their own show.
Right. Venus had his gong at night. You know, Johnny Fever was
his rock and roll and stuff. Well, I mean, we have a format where the music is anywhere from 60s through today. However, I tell everyone that I want them to develop their own personality. I said, how's a listener going to engage if they don't know who you are? So there's this one young man that we have. His name's Kyle King, and he's in Houston. And he started off doing middays and everything, but he's a little rough. And I don't mean rough as...
Just a little green?
No, not like that. He's tough on the air. He'll come right at you. He's a straight shooter. And I thought maybe that was a little much for middays. So
nights sounds like nights.
Yeah, well, he's on 7 to midnight now. And
if you got a little rough edge, if you're a little edgy, then nights.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, you know, Kyle, you can't be that edgy, you know, during the middays. You know, people are listening to you in their office and stuff like that. I said, and so then he started doing bits. Now we're talking bits that would be produced in, you know, large market stations in the morning that were really on the fence of, you know, could be
edgy and designed for a morning show, offensive.
Could even be offensive. So, and they were good. He's very talented. Kyle's extremely talented. So
he just has to know his boundaries.
Yeah. So we switched him up, and he says, "Well, how do I sound?" I said, "Well, you sound fine." And we just kind of molded his content, but I wanted him delivering it the way he wanted to, because, you know, I could take this guy and I could put him in any time slot. But if that's not who he is, then
he's perpetrating a fraud.
Exactly, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I put him on nights, and that's exactly where he belongs with his type of show. So we actually have a couple of Facebook pages that have nothing to do with Wolverine Radio, but they're national pages that have 60,000 fans on each one of them, and we promote him on that.
How important is, for radio station of your type, how important is social media to you?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. When I started Wolverine Radio, what I wanted to do is walk into a client and tell them that we can deliver a complete package. You know, everything from social media to website advertising to being on the air. We're getting into digital signage that's coming up in the next few months. And I want to be able to walk in and say, we have a total solution, you know, for you. We can reach this demographic, that demographic, and go right up and down the pike.
And that plays into your ability to be a salesperson, which you've done for a large portion of your adult life, your working life.
You
right?
have to be.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
You have to be.
Even when you're on the air, you're selling.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself, and you're selling the call letters, basically. You know.
Exactly. You have to. You have to be. If you don't, then you might as well just turn it off, because if you don't, I think some people or some owners will tell you, or general managers will say, well, if you don't have any listeners, you know, then you don't have a radio station. Well, or I say, well, if you don't have any advertisers, you don't have a radio station. But to get that, you have to make sure you have a good base.
They go hand in hand, on air and
do.
sales. Sometimes in the past, there always used to be sort of a clash. They were virtuous.
Oh, the sales department
Yeah.
hated the on-air
Right,
group.
and
You know,
vice
it was
versa.
Celebrity death match, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
between the two.
But you really have to have a symmetry. They have to work well together in order to have a well-oiled machine that runs smoothly. you know?
Well, the thing about it is, I'm the sales staff,
Yeah.
and I'm also on air
Well,
as well.
the
so.
small markets, I mean, that's kind of what you do. You wear a lot of hats or a lot of feathers in one cap, right?
Yeah, because you have to somehow trim the budget and make sure that it's, you know, equitable to continue to operate. If it's not, you know, and we're still new, so we have a long way to go. We're still developing.
Where do you want to
and a lot
go?
of-
What's an ultimate goal for you?
You know, that's a really tough question, because
How far can you go?
the sky's the limit, you know, always. But, you know, when you have something like an internet, you know, station that we have now, I mean, we're heard everywhere. I've had people call me from literally the Amazon and said that they were listening to us down there.
Wow.
All over the country. You know, getting back into high school sports, you know, when we're carrying a high school game, you know, and then you have, you know, a young kid who's a pretty popular football player, Cole Molesky, and, you know, Grandpa from New Mexico calls in and says, what a great game. I can't get to the game, but now I can listen to it on the air. So it's a good feeling. So, but where do I want to go? And again, it's a strange question.
Maybe you just want to sort of allow it to evolve to where it will go on its own. Just allow it to progress, and you just be there for the ride.
It's going to have to, because I don't want to get bigger than it is or bigger than it isn't. You know, it has to grow on its own. I mean, we have goals of where I would like to see it go, but if I try to move it too fast, then I don't want it to kind of crumble around me or whatever.
Right. Not too much. You know, there's places that expand too quickly, or leagues that expand too quickly, and then they have to fold some of the franchises because they went too fast, too quick, too big. You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, here's an idea of what we did. We're in what we call the Jewett City Savings Bank Studios on Main Street.
Talk to me about the facilities a little bit.
Yeah.
And how it came about.
Well, I got real cocky and made some big mistakes when I first started. And I came out with some ad packages that were just totally ridiculous.
What you mean, like as far as price-wise?
Oh, yeah. I just
forgot where you were, where you came from, all that stuff?
Yeah, newbie mistakes. One big, huge
Well, that's
one.
good, though, that you could admit it and you can learn from it.
And I walked in to the president and CEO of the Jewett City Savings Bank.
Got about a minute left.
Kevin Merchant. Anyway, long story short, he blew me out the door. And then I saw him in a florist.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, look,
I
I made a
blew it,
mistake.
yeah.
I blew it. Can I come back in? Next thing you know, he's our biggest supporter.
Wow, that's great.
And we have their building as well.
And
so.
tell me about the place, because you kind of took over some of it, right?
Yeah. Well, we were broadcasting in the back, But now I asked them, I said, can we come up to the front? So we're actually visible right from Main Street. So when you see us on the air, you can beep. We tell people to beep.
You were down in my neck of the woods here doing a speech at the beautiful Guard Theater. We've had those folks on too, talking about your startup, right?
Yeah. Basically, kind of like what I'm doing with you. I'm doing things I've never done before, and I would never trade it, And I think the coolest thing is that I worked in retail for 25 years, in and out of radio and stuff.
But
like
radio was always in your blood that whole time.
Yeah.
And I like to say that I contributed a little bit to Wolverine Radio by reading a couple of commercials.
You do.
No charge.
You do.
Yet.
Yeah.
But when you become big time, then we'll have you on. But I wish you all the success, and I'm going to come up and visit you soon.
I hope so.
And maybe you'll allow me to be on the air one morning.
Absolutely.
I do a morning show too, so we'll have to figure something out.
Where?
So, yeah, it's a little place. Never heard of it. Mike Mynarski, Wolverine Radio. Check it out. We'll put the website up on the screen again, and listen and be a part of it. And we thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Till next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.